The American dream is so dead, people don't even want to pass it on to their own kids. I read an article about how this is the hugest decline, right, in Americans having children. Americans are not having enough children for the first time in history to replace, themselves, right? But why would somebody bring children into this world, in America specifically? Why would you purposely have a baby in America? Why would a woman even do that? You don't have any control over your body. Government has ultimate control over your vessel. Hell, government will even keep you alive as a host when you're dead, just to make sure it can force you to give birth to that baby. So I don't see the benefit for women, frankly, to have babies. America is not a place for families. It's obviously not a place for families. It's not set up that way. They tax families into oblivion. So why would you sign up for that? So no, that's why people aren't having babies. America, if you want young people to have babies, how about you make this economy affordable? Because right now it's not. It's really set up just for rich people to have babies. So go have the rich women. Oh, that's right. They don't want to have rich women have a whole bunch of babies because their kids are not going to work in factories and stuff. It's supposed to be our kids working in factories. Like I said, that's why people are not having kids. Why the hell would we have kids? Why would anybody have kids in this environment? Why would anybody have kids in this environment? It's not a good environment for children. So kudos to the young folk. If you smart, keep your dress down and your panties up.
Many would not agree, but majority will agree. The worst thing an African man can do is have a child in this country. This is coming from an African mother. And I think, to me, it's the worst thing I ever did. I wish I could start all over and just have all my kids back home. Seriously. Like, I just wish I did that, because the laws that's about children in this country doesn't really focus on the children's well-being. They actually try to sabotage the parents to get the child out of the home over stupid things. And it makes you look like you're not trying harder and being a good parent, like for stupid stuff. And I mean, most of you guys that's coming here, please think about it. I'm telling you, think about it before you do it.
I have no interest in having kids, but even if I did, I would never want to have a kid in America. First off, don't even get me started on how badly they treat pregnant women. Literally, maternity leave is not long enough. A lot of pregnant women are like fired from their jobs. Like, they find like some legal loophole to like fire pregnant women or not hire them, and it's just so weird. And then on top of that, it is so expensive. Like, I think it's like $50,000 to have a baby in an American hospital. And I don't know if you know this, but around the world that is not normal. And then our government gives us pennies and dimes to have babies. Literally $5,000 tax credit from Trump. And first off, don't even get me started on that. But literally a study came out saying like it's $1 million to raise a kid from 0 to 18. So I don't know what he thinks $5,000 is going to do to motivate people to have kids. And it's like the government is doing everything but lowering the price of living, lowering the price of healthcare. Why would I or someone else want to have a baby in a country that clearly doesn't value them, makes it super expensive, and wants us to have kids but doesn't offer them the support? Like, hello? But anyway.
Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. Of course, this is Cleanflix, and thank you for clicking onto this video. In today's discussion, I've seen a video, let's say some videos of families in America. They are saying America is not friendly to have family. America is not a country that you can raise children to. The women there are afraid of having kids, and it is so much expensive to have a kid nowadays in America. The birth rate in America is decreasing in day-to-day activity. They are saying that any family is willing to have no kids at all, or if it chooses to have a family, then they will choose to have 1 or 2 kids and end the matters there. But majority of them, they are choosing to have 1 or 0 kids. This is according to the statistics that these Americans have gathered. They are saying all the reason being that the current administration, it is making families so hard to raise kids in America, not to mention how expensive these kids how expensive to raise a kid is, including daycare, including healthcare, all the things that they are required, and every environment that is required to raise these kids. So they're saying raising a kid in America is so unsustainable. It is not super friendly for you to raise a kid in America. I gathered this discussion onto these videos that you are about to watch of how these American families are giving the reasons onto why they are not willing to raise kids in America. And this reason, I quite find it very reasonable with me. And let's watch them together, guys. And then at the end, we will be summarizing this and then also giving some few commentaries and asking you what you think about this. In the meantime, subscribe and let's watch this video together.
It's been said before, but I'm going to say it again. Stop having children. Don't have children if you do not have the financial means. If you can't even afford yourself in this economy, don't have children, okay? The thing is, I'm not talking about moms or women who become moms and then they work their ass off and they're able to afford their kids and they make that bag. And I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the women who deliberately make it known that they don't have enough money and yet they still have kids.
So one week you'll see a bunch of headlines about the declining birth rate in the US, and you'll see a lot of articles about how American women no longer want to have children, how American women want to be child-free. What are we going to do? How are we going to replace the population? And you'll see a lot of people in positions of power trying to come up with incentives to make giving birth more attractive to the average American woman. And then the next week you'll see a headline with a horror story like what's happening to Adriana Smith, who was pronounced brain dead at 9 weeks pregnant and is now being kept alive as an incubator for that baby. And because she will have been brain dead for basically the entire duration of her pregnancy, most medical experts have no idea what's going to happen to that baby. On top of all of the trauma that this is causing for her family, the family is also likely going to be saddled with some very, very serious medical bills as a result of all of this. Do people in positions of power understand that a lot of American women are seeing this and going, oh, this is actually not a risk that I can afford to take. I cannot risk having this happen to me, not just because of how horrific this is, but also because I cannot put a baby through that, and I cannot put my family through that. The laws that have been put in place to create the dystopian situation that Adriana Smith and her family are having to go through right now, yeah, they're making a lot of women who actually want to be mothers afraid to get pregnant.
I hate to say it, but I feel like if you live in America and you're still having kids and getting pregnant, you're just selfish. These kids are not going to have a future. So I don't know why y'all keep getting pregnant. It's honestly so confusing to me. They're taking away the Department of Education. Having kids is unaffordable if you're not rich. Look at what the hospitals are charging these moms. Is actually ridiculous. Nobody is doing anything about climate change. So who knows what type of world they'll even be living. Like, will they even have oxygen at that point? Like, for real, like, I'm being honest. And what if your kid turns out to be gay or trans? Like, come on. And the only reason the government and like JD Vance and Trump are pushing for people to have kids is not because they want more families. They want a workforce. They can tell that less people are having kids, meaning that'll be a smaller workforce. Like, come on, use your brain. And even college is extremely unaffordable, and they're making it even harder to be able to take out student loans and have things that make it more accessible for people who can't afford college to go. Therefore, your kids are going to be the ones working at McDonald's and all these other jobs like that in grocery stores because they won't be able to get jobs that requires a degree because they won't be able to afford one. But maybe I'm just pessimistic. I don't know. I don't care. I just feel like if you're having kids in this political environment in America, you're setting up your children for failure before they're even born. And that's my piece.
The United States of America is on the road to something very significant. And that is, by 2031, more people will die in the United States than people who are born in the United States. That means that we will start to see a population decline. Why am I talking about this? Because a population decline in a major civilized country is a significant cultural, economic, and overall health indicator for that country. And it is putting us on a sort of collision course with the future. By the way, the top 4 countries who also immigrate to the United States also currently have a net population decline. Mexico, China, India, and the Philippines. The most significant reason for this is, of course, that most young people in our country never reach the kind of financial success necessary to have kids. And it is a significant marker of where we have become as a society. And many people are simply choosing not to have kids. Let me read a story to you. I have 3 daughters, 7, 9, and 12. I wouldn't trade them for anything in the world. But it's also so hard financially to provide for them and to keep all the bills paid. My wife and I live paycheck to paycheck, and we have no savings whatsoever. Between the two of us, we bring in about $115,000 a year. $25,000 of it goes to paying rent alone. Gas is expensive, and it just shot up by 40 cents in the last week alone. My usual station is $4.99 per gallon. I drive a 2001 Jeep Grand Cherokee. It gets about 14 miles per gallon. Filling an empty tank would cost me $100, give or take a few dollars. Lately, I've been putting in just enough to get gas, maybe half a tank or so to get back and forth from work during the week. Usually it worked unless I needed to drive more than expected. My wife drives a 2002 Nissan Leaf. Someone else says, why would you have kids in this country? All safety nets are being eliminated. It's already difficult to buy a home or even move out of your parents' place. Funding for education is dropping everywhere. Women's rights are eroding and more. And of course, to add on to all of this, we have completely changed our immigration policy to the United States of America, making it seemingly openly hostile to come into the United States. Regardless of the solution to this issue, the problem is simple. People cannot afford to have children, and we're about to see the consequence of exactly that.
You guys might want to sit down for this. You're not going to like the numbers I'm about to give you. So the United States just hit a record low for infant fertility. Record low of all time since we've ever been tracking it. So every woman of childbearing age is giving birth to just under 1.6 babies, just enough to replace us, okay? The lowest ever. And we know why that is. We just don't have a country that makes it easy for women to have that choice and to not have the stress of worrying about access to health care, finances, and you name it, right? Right. This is true of most other countries in Europe, and you name it. Their birth rates are declining, except for one country. One country has a strong growth. Can you guess which country? Israel. 3 babies for every female of childbearing age. And you'd be happy to know how heavily subsidized everything is. When you have a baby, the mother automatically gets a check. And then that baby gets a monthly deposit in the mom's bank account every single month until that child turns 18. And then in addition, that child has a separate account where the government deposits money that gets put aside for investments and so forth. And then of course their health care is heavily subsidized and college is heavily subsidized. And it's just wonderful that they have that money, thanks to you and me. When you see those New York City mayor candidates during the Democratic primary all say, where's the first place they would go visit if they were elected? And they all said Israel. And Zohran Mamdani said, I would go right back to New York City because that's who I'm trying to make life affordable for. Yeah, we don't get those things here. We don't get those things here. And what this extreme right regime, per Project 2025, is going to attempt to do to boost up those birth rates is not make it financially affordable and heavily subsidize everything, because we can't. We're not taxing corporations and we're not taxing the wealthy. We need that money. They're hoarding it all. what they're going to do is continue to erode our access to birth control. As a matter of fact, the only thing that Republicans have put forward right now to boost the fertility rates is to make IVF treatment more affordable. That money, though, we are sending to Israel. We don't get it. Like, we're just being used. We're being used by so many different entities, it's not even funny. Vote in the primaries, Democratic primaries. Vote the pro-Israel candidates out. We need to start looking out for ourselves, and we need candidates who are going to help us do that.
So as you can see, the conclusion is America is not family friendly. It is not easy for these families to raise kids in America. And according to the videos we just seen, some of the reasons that I noted from them is that some of them are saying having kids in America is like having a second job. And remember, some of them, they already have a full-time job, and this full-time job is not paying them well to raise these kids. When these kids come, everything about kids is so expensive, not to mention the upkeep, the things they need, daycare, the college, the health coverage, everything is so quite expensive, and the money they get is not even enough to cater for their needs and the needs of this kid. So if you have a full-time job and you have a kid, you'll need to register him or her or the kid to a daycare. Daycare is also too expensive for them to afford. Another reason being, America does not even offer these women the opportunity to have kids willingly. For example, there is a woman who I've just forgotten her name, but this woman went into she was declared brain dead, and she was pregnant. But now the government forced that woman. If you are declared brain dead, of course, you all know what happens. So the government put that woman under machines, life support machine, of course, so that she can incubate that kid. And this made some of the women to be afraid to have kids. So they are concluding and saying America does not offer women the opportunity to have kids willingly or unwillingly. And they are saying also the violence. Of course, in the past few years, we've seen school mass shooting, recent one, mass shooting, mass killings in schools, the violence the kids go through. If you are a black kid, the racism that you will face, profiling. So these are making some of the women afraid to have kids in America. And also, I've said daycare. Family courts system is a scam and so harsh to some parents. And also, these kids, to some parents who can afford them, it's also a burden. The government does not offer enough support for them. So some families think that having these kids will be a burden. If you can't take care of yourself, you can't even take care of a kid. So it's a burden to them. And access to health care, to college fees, and some of the women are even complaining about maternity leave. They're saying the maternity leave they are being offered is not that maternity leave. It is just go for some few weeks and then come back. And if you dare get pregnant while you are working as a woman in America, 80% of them have announced that they have been unemployed. They have been fired. The reason of being fired is that we cannot leave this spot empty because you are pregnant, you want to go on a maternity leave. Let's just find someone to replace you. And then after the maternity leave, if you come, they will tell you we can't fire someone who was working there, so you just need to find another job. So this makes it harsh for some women in America to have kids. But those are just their comments. You do tell me, do you think these are valid reasons? For me, it seems quite understandable. But at the same time also, whatever the case, we must have families. But if these are the kind of environment that we are being exposed to, then these are valid reasons. You do tell me what to think about these guys in the comment section. Let's have a discussion, and I hope you'll subscribe to this channel at the end of this video. See you in the next.